From now on, we'd like to begin a press conference by Prime Minister Takaichi. Speech about Prime Minister. Please go ahead. The people of Japan, today, as Prime Minister, I decided that on January the 23rd, there will be dissolution of the lower house. Why now? Whether Takaichi Sanae is the right person for Prime Minister. Right now, the sovereign, the people of Japan, needs to make such a decision. That was my thought. That's the only thought that I had. Makes the Japanese archipelago resilient and prosperous. If not now, it wouldn't happen. So, in order to make it happen, the administration of Takaichi assumed or addressed a completely different economic and fiscal measures and drastic change of important policies that affects the state's foundation. The president's election for LDP, and as part of the coalition government agreement and in platform, there were big policy changes, and they will be full-fledged in the form of 2026 budget and their government bills to be deliberated in this year's budget, this year's diet, and many of which were not part of the manifesto during the previous lower house election. And then in the previous election, I myself, Takaichi Sanae, there wasn't assumption that the possibility for me to assume such operation of running the state. And dissolution is a grave decision, and I will not run away. I will not postpone. In order to make it happen together with the people of Japan, this needs to be decided as the course of Japan. And I myself would like to also put the course of action as Prime Minister at stake. Whether or not the people can really rely on me for running the state, I'd like to have a direct decision from the people of Japan. Japan has a parliamentary system, so therefore, it is not possible for the people of Japan to directly choose the Prime Minister. However, the lower house election is the choice of the administration between the LDP and the JIP. If we can gain the majority, then you are with me. Otherwise, you are maybe with a Prime Minister title or a different person. Indirectly, the people of Japan can choose the Prime Minister in this way. Whether it's the lower house or the upper house, the president of the LDP doesn't have the majority, and she's still the Prime Minister. And in the previous election of the lower house, based on the assumption of coalition government of the LDP and the Komeito parties, there was a judgment pursued for the people of Japan. The framework of the coalition government has changed. So therefore, instead of convenience on the side of the politics, the wills of the people, so we need to squarely ask for your mandate now. This is the third challenge, and the last year, in October the 4th, I was inaugurated as the president of the LDP, and right afterwards, for 26 years, we had a partner with Komeito. However, there was a sudden departure of Komeito. Even though I was a president in both houses, the LDP didn't have the majority. And despite that, I was facing the designation of Prime Minister's election, and the path for Prime Minister was quite harsh. And a new coalition partners, the JIP, Japan Innovation Party, and other people in both houses, with support of other people and factions, I was almost feeling that I was walking on the ice, but I was able to gain the mandate as Prime Minister, and last year in October 21st, I was inaugurated. And from then on, I was really worried about the fact that I didn't go through a test for the choice of the administration as the Takaichi administration. However, especially the anti-inflationary measures which are facing the people of Japan couldn't wait for any more moment. As the Takaichi administration, we had to put in place immediate actions. There was a comparison by the administration of the supplementary budget of 2025. These are all price reduction and their gas bill and their power bill reduction or support, and then local subsidies for priority measures and anti-inflationary measures. The standard 80,000 yen per annum was a support per household. There was also utilization of subsidies for the diesel, oil, and then gas as well, gasoline as well. Power bill and their gas bill support started this month. And upon the inauguration of the administration, many of the medical institutions which support our lives were making losses, and there was a record high number for the number of bankruptcies for nursing care operators. The people of old age and with disabilities lost a place to stay. There was a sense of urgency. Loss-making medical institutions and long-term care operators, and starting with these, without waiting for the medical fee revision, the medical and the nursing care package was part of the supplementary budget, and then for care workers in wide-ranging matters, by 10,000 yen or 19,000 yen, there was a support for a wage hike. In each ministry, agency, local municipalities, there was an ask for 2025 supplementary budget, the early execution of this, including anti-inflationary measures, the life security, the necessary measures are in place step by step. The perfect shape to avoid any vacuum in the economic operation. This is the dissolution with that in mind, that I can clearly say. Now we were able to take some actions for the time being, and then now I'd like to ramp up the gear to realize the policies. In order to rectify the situation around the abduction, I'd like to have a leader-level conversation to have tangible effects and achievements. There is also controversial, drastic policy. However, I'd like to make it happen with bold mind. Up until the end of last year, in both houses, in the preliminary session, there were question and answer sessions, and then 2 rounds of budget committee deliberations, and amid such, I had a strong feeling of this nature. Unstable Japanese politics, and there's a harsh reality of Nagatacho. These are the things that I faced during the last 3 months. Without trust, doesn't work. For important change of policies, I'd like to present them squarely to the people of Japan, and whether or not it would work squarely, I'd like to ask for the mandate. I thought that it would be the responsibility of the leader of the democratic nation, and the core part is responsible for active fiscal policy. This will be a big pivot from the previous economic and fiscal measures. Excessive austerity measures, the lack of investment for the future, these will end in my administration. I will minimize various risks, and in order to have a prosperity of cutting-edge technologies, strategic fiscal measures are needed. This is to assure the people's livelihoods, security, and safety. It will ramp up the income and employment and consumer sentiment as well, and the profit of businesses. Without increasing the tax rate, we can naturally have a tax increase. The first pillar is to minimize the risks of crisis management investment, whatever the situation is. By having food security, Japan will not suffer from foods. We will establish the right environment for farmland, whether it's a farmland or forestry and fishery. The cutting-edge technologies will be implemented so that we can spread the Japanese foods around the world, and we will ramp up demand and supply at the same time, inside and outside of the country. Japanese startups having quite a high-level, top-level technologies in completely closed type plant factories and a land-based aquaculture facility where we can have a lot of money or earn a lot of businesses. And energy and resource security is also a mandate. We have to have a stable supply of power. This is needed to protect Japanese livelihoods and industries. We have that Japan invented the perovskite solar cells, and then the next-gen innovative reactors. Such Japanese technologies are prosperous, and then fusion energy needs to be also implemented early on, and the coolant application and the photoelectric conversions technologies, energy-saving data center are spreading, and oxide-based all solid-state batteries, social implementation. We have to really implement these as Japanese strengths. Economic security too, critical minerals and APIs for drugs. We are dependent on limited countries, which is a risk, big risk. As for my administration, I'd like to raise the autonomy of Japan, and I'd like to make the procurement domestic and then diversified. That was already assumed or studied. Without the Japanese technologies products, the people around the world would suffer, and indispensability of Japan will be protecting our peace as a state. And so we need to also protect the people's livelihoods and of the now and the future from disasters. National land resilience and medical security, cybersecurity enhancement, critical management investment will be happening. So products and services infrastructure will be implemented early on, and we will implement it in the overseas market. That will to assure our peace of mind and the economic security and growth. In the West, we will be getting ahead, and we will have a public-private collaboration to solve important societal challenges. So bigger trend is our new industrial policies. However, we haven't been able to do enough investment for many years, protecting people's lives and livelihoods. This is the ultimate mandate and the mission of the state. The anxieties need to be transformed into the peace of mind and hopes. We need a drastic critical management or crisis management investment. So austerity measures, such spell needs to be overcome, and we have to do it now. The second pillar is growth investment. Already, as for the Takaichi administration, we have kicked off the headquarters Japan Growth Strategies headquarters, and including 17 fields of strategic fields. We have promotion of the business implementation, and then basic research fields, and then HRD enhancement and startup support will be enhanced as new tech-driven state. And then we will also promote the local ideas, and then drastic investment measures and infrastructure establishment will be implemented so that the industrial clusters can be formulated strategically across the state. Wherever you are in Japan, you can live with peace of mind, with safety, and you can enjoy a high level of education, medical services, welfare, and you have a workplace, making the Japanese archipelago strong and rich. So that's the shape of Japan that we are aiming for. We need a strong economy in order to make it happen. The ways that we craft our state budget will be fundamentally changed. Every year, we have the assumption that we will have the supplementary budget. However, we will break away from that, and we will incorporate necessary measures into the initial budget. And based on the assumptions that we will implement deliverables management, multi-year fiscal spending will be committed, part of our commitment. So we will raise our foreseeability of fiscal spending, and for crisis management investment, the growth investment, local operators will have a state with a safe peace of mind for capex and R&D. 2026 initial budget is a first step. However, the budget request for this year already ended before my inauguration. So therefore, the review of the budget comparison policies, including the ceiling, is something that we will start for this year's summer budget request, and it will take 2 years to make it happen as a budget for next year. However, I will carry it through. So I have implemented anti-inflationary measures so far, and this year will be on the positive side for the increase of real wage. However, the food inflation rate will be hovering at a high rate. In order to realize strong economy, we need to ramp up the take-home pay for the people of Japan. We need to assure or make sure that the real wage hike happens, and the improvement of consumer sentiment will drive the virtuous economic cycle. That should happen. People in the lower income, mid-income households are suffering from the inflation, and foods and beverages are now with a reduced tax rate, and for the next 2 years, they will not in the scope of consumption tax. I signed the coalition agreement between the LDP and the JIP on October the 20th. These are the measures which are there, and then they were also long-cherished desires of mine as well. And going forward, there will be an installation of the national committee or a national conference where we will accelerate the review for the funding and the schedule. And since the inauguration, share prices are hiking.
People's precious pension is managed through stock markets as well. The realization of the robust economy can change worry about the future into a peace of mind. With transformation of economic and fiscal policies in a bold manner, we'll realize virtuous cycle of the economy. The largest budget for FY 2026 was criticized, saying it is excessive. However, for budget of 2026, we pay attention to the sustainability of public finances. Therefore, primary balance turned positive, first time in 80 years. The budget necessary for policies in FY 2026 did not need debts. It's not that debts will realize new policies. For the budget for FY 2026, the issuance of the government bonds is controlled to 29.6 trillion yen, second lowest after the global financial crisis. Tax revenue is increasing, and the reliance on the public debt for the budget is the lowest after the end of the financial crisis. This is the realization of the robust economy under the responsible and proactive public finances. Going forward, we will control the rate of growth of outstanding debt balance within the growth rate, and we are going to lower the ratio of outstanding government debt to GDP. That's how we are going to realize the sustainability of public finances. By presenting specific and objective indicators, we are going to secure the market confidence. Without the support from the people in Japan, we cannot realize potent diplomatic policies and security. International situation is becoming more severe. Chinese forces implemented military drill around Taiwan. The upstream goods in supply chain the world relies on and that are used for consumer usage are under control. And they are the move to make other countries submit to their claim, and we are seeing economic coercion. It's been 10 years since we put forward the free and open Indo-Pacific. We are going to evolve that. We have had ASEAN summit meeting, ASEC leaders meeting, summit meeting with the President Trump, APEC summit meeting, G20 summit, Central Asia plus Japan summit meeting, and meetings with President Lee Jae-myung and Prime Minister Meloni. Utilizing opportunities of international conferences, we had the bilateral meetings of many countries. We had great opportunities for diplomatic efforts. With the Japan-US alliance as a cornerstone, we are going to enhance the collaboration with US, South Korea, with Japan and Philippines, and the US, Australia, Japan, Italy, the UK, and Global South. And we are going to fundamentally strengthen security, national security strategy, national defense strategy, defense build-up program. These three strategic documents will be amended earlier than the schedule. With Russia's aggression against the Ukraine, countries are looking at controlling massive drones, new methods of fights, and when something happens, then that could be protracted. And we are bracing for long fight. And this is the great change since 2022, when the last time the strategic three documents were amended. It has to be changed. And it should not be extension of the traditional discussion. There should be fundamental amendment, enhancement of deterrence, cyber space, electric and magnetic wave, new domain and related response, enhancement of defense industry and technology foundation, better treatment of the SDF members. If we are not determined to your country on our own, nobody will protect us. Peace and independence of Japan, in order to protect people's lives, we are stepping forward for realistic and resilient security policies. Enhancement of intelligence functions cannot be achieved without the support of people in Japan. Gathering and analyzing sufficient information and make a right decision without intelligence capability, we cannot have strong diplomatic, defense, economic, and technology capabilities. We are going to enhance information analysis capability, pretend crisis from happening, so that we can protect our national interest in a strategic manner. To be more specific, we are establishing National Intelligence Bureau to enhance intelligence capability as a nation, and we establish Committee on Foreign Investment to have better screening of foreign investment, and we will be doing a legislation for prevention of intelligence and espionage. They have to be done early. And also tax credits with benefits, especially the income increase for mid and low income people are suffering. And regressive system is something they are suffering from for social security. That's what I claimed during the presidential election of LDP. An establishment of sustainable and social security system, including a design, is the imminent task. Across the parties, efforts have to be made with the wisdom. Imperial household law and constitutional amendments have been challenges that have not been addressed. I'm going to tackle this challenge head on. And these policies need stable political foundation and a specific the confidence from people in Japan. And without a vague politics, we have a specific path, and we are asking for mandate. That's the reason for dissolution. LDP has to change. Responsible and proactive public finances, the change of security policies in a foundational manner, there are criticism. However, for people in Japan, with the consistency, will be focused on implementation of policies. Without that, we cannot gain the trust of people in Japan. During the LDP presidential election, October last year, we saw really intense fight. After the candid political discussions, I was chosen as the president of LDP. However, it was a decision made by party members. I only talked about some of the policies that are going to be greatly changed. Including those, LDP will put forward a policy promise. And we are asking for mandate. After the election, for realization of the campaign promise, LDP will be working together as one. That is the election, so that we can be a people's party. It is a foundational spirit of LDP. After I became a Prime Minister, during a diet session, after diet session in Japan and overseas, I have worked. During the election campaign, the cabinet of the Takaichi administration will continue to work with the government employees of agencies and ministries. With the election, it is said that it will be difficult to enact budget for 2026 within the fiscal year. In order to minimize the impact, after dissolving House of Representatives on January 23rd, public announcement will be made on January 27th and voting on February 8th. That is the schedule for general election. And with the collaboration with the party members supporting responsible and proactive public finances, we like to realize a budget for 2026. Still, provisional budget may be needed. If that is the case, we know we are going to implement free tuition for high schools and free school lunch that should be implemented from April. We are making various efforts to realize that, including legislation enactment within the fiscal year and provisional budget. After we get the mandate from the people in Japan during the election, we think we can accelerate the realization of policies. For the past 26 years, the supporters of Komeito Party has supported for LDP every time we had the election. During a summer election with the scorching heat and a winter election where there are the cold winds on the street, in the community centers and outside, we sweat together and we lose voice, and that's how we collaborated in the election. This election, we decided to part ways. However, I would like to take this opportunity to offer the appreciation for their support over the quarter of a century. However, we have to be determined that it's going to be a tough election as LDP. We are not going to get support from Komeito Party as LDP. 6 months ago, in the upper house election, we worked together. However, they are supporting Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan. So that is the reality, even though it is sad. We have to end the situation where we do not have people, the politics just for the sake of election and Nagadacho logic. So we are stepping forward to create a new country. I remember Prime Minister Abe's remarks 10 years ago. We are determined and we are braced for challenges. However, future is not given by other people. It is something we have to realize with our own hands. This is the word we need for Japan now. If a nation does not take on challenges, there's no future. If it is only defense in politics, there's no hope. If we only wait for hope for future, it will not come. It's not something other people will create. We have to be determined. We have to act. That's how we create them. So I labeled this election as the election where we create future. We have a bright future for Japan. We have opportunities for Japan. We can confidently say that that's kind of the society I want to create, and that's kind of the society people should be feeling. If people challenge themselves, they should be valued, and people make efforts, get rewarded. We support each other, and we have households, families, and we can work with a hope. I want to spearhead that. I will not run away. I will be consistent. I will be determined. I will be consistent in politics where we are responsible for the future. The newborn baby today and 18-year-old people who are voting for the first time this year, most of them can look at Japan in 22nd century. We want Japan to be safe and prosperous. We want to be a bright beacon of Indo-Pacific, and we should be a country where people look up to as a country of freedom and democracy. I believe in Japan and foundational capability of Japanese people. I will continue to push the switch of Japanese growth and release the potential. And I will realize Japanese diplomacy that flourishes on a world stage. as Prime Minister, Takaichi will take on a transformation and realize a policy transformation, whether we have supporters together or we stop with the unstable politics. That's kind of the mandate we ask for from Japan as a sovereign of the nation. I want to go forward together for people in Japan. Japan can be stronger. Japan can be more prosperous. Japan can be a country with full of hope. Let's create the future together. Once again, we make Japan stronger and more prosperous. Let's open up the new age together. To conclude, let me say this. The election is the foundation for democracy. However, this time it's going to be in the middle of winter, especially if you live in a region where there are snow. We appreciate your efforts to come to a voting center, even though weather could be bad. And also in the end of the year, a busy time, I would like to appreciate all the municipality members who are engaged in election. That is all from myself. Thank you for your attention.
Now we'd like to take questions from the floor. First of all, the leading media outlet, Kyodo Tsushin, please go ahead. Thank you very much. This is Tori Inari from Kyodo Tsushin. So for this election, so what is your target for the number of the votes that you gain, and what will be the determination line for the win or lose? And you talked about putting a stake or for the course of action as Prime Minister, are you going to step down if you cannot get the target achieved? And for the people of Japan, next year's budget is important, however, it will not be achieved by the end of the year. And you were focused on economic policies, and doesn't it run counter? If you would like to ask for the people's mandate, maybe you could have done it after the passage of the budget. And what is the course despite all of this? Thank you very much for your question. Like I have said before, whether or not I'm the right choice for Prime Minister, this is something which has to be decided by the people of Japan. And before the Diet session of long deliberations, I was thinking about it. And now there is a great decision that I made for the dissolution of the Diet. And then as Prime Minister, there was a significant support from the ruling coalition. And then we'd like to gain the majority as a coalition or the ruling parties. And then I myself, as a Prime Minister, I will also put at stake my course of action as Prime Minister. And last year there was a election within the previous framework. However, later on there was a change of the coalition government, and based on the new coalition government, new policies are advanced, and anti-inflationary measures and others for national or the life security. For the time being, we were able to put in place the measures. They are implemented step by step. Upon this juncture, we'd like to raise the gear for the new policies, important policies, new policies, responsible and responsible fiscal measure. So there's a big change of economic fiscal changes, national security, fundamental changes, intelligence enhancement. So these are controversial ones, very drastic ones. So there is such a drastic change, and despite of the criticism, I'd like to face such challenges. In order to carry it through as a reform, the stability of the politics is needed. The voters' mandate is a must. And regarding the dissolution timing, of course, there is a decision point. However, the anti-inflationary measures that cannot wait. And by incorporating different parties' measures, I was able to take measures. But going forward, for 6 months or so in the Diet session, drastic transformation of policies. And despite criticism, there has to be drastic implementation, stability of politics, and a people's mandate are needed at the same time. So therefore, because of this, I decided on the dissolution of the lower house.
いただきます。東京新聞村
We are going to take another question from coordinated media. Murakami from Tokyo Shimbun and Chunichi Shimbun. CDPJ and Komeito party members are working together to form centrist reform alliance, and they set the policy today. And they are worried about Japanese government going the right wing. What do you make of that, and what kind of the political discussion do you have? The centrist reform alliance, one of the key policies is zero consumption tax for food and beverages. And you mentioned your idea about zero consumption tax for food and beverages for 2 years. You were more cautious last year, but you changed the policy. Why is that? And what is the background? Right after Komeito left, and they alluded to some of the direction. However, it is now difficult to really work with them. What do you make of that? So, centrist reform alliance, just today they set the policies and basic policies. So I am not aware of the details. So their core is the people first. However, in the past, I saw people's lives in the center. What is important is not what I see it, but what we do. But responsible and productive public finances and strong economy around strategic investments that enhance resilience against potential crises. That is important to us. Protecting people's lives and livelihood. It is the most important mission for the government. Diplomacy and security policies are very important as well. So we are not going right wing. We are becoming just ordinary country. That's what I think. But with a Komeito party, we enacted the peace security policies. The CDPJ said that some of the policies, the policies are unconstitutional. So that is something that should be included in the discussion during the campaign. And you asked the question about the reduction of consumption tax. LDP and JIP have a coalition agreement document, and that is included, and that is policy I wanted to achieve. There were divided opinions within LDP, but it is decided to be included in the campaign promise. The tentative reduction of consumption tax, so including the designing of the system for tax credits with benefits, and for the comprehensive reform of social security and taxation systems, including the National Council. We listen to the voices, and dining out, and including the impact on other transactions, a system for tax credits with benefits, and a foundational reform, and including the timing, what will be realistic to do and when, an interest rate and a currency, and impact on the local area. So in a fiscal and public policies reform, within a framework to realize the stability of public finances without relying on public bonds, with exceptions, there will be consultations in a close manner. So I'm going to accelerate the deliberation to realize that. About the financing source, various sources are on the table. There will be discussions with the different groups going forward. But the benefits and also review of the exceptional system and also the tax revenue and expense. So there have to be the reform of the both expense and also income. For the past 26 years, supporters of Komeito has given support for LDP. Every time you had election, there is a heartfelt appreciation. So our LDP members cannot be supported from Komeito party this time. And the upper house election 6 months ago, so those members of CDPJ will be supported by our former supporters, and I have to really question the kind of the development election without Japan, Nagatacho, so the election without people, the Nagatacho logic, they have to be ended, and that is included in a claim that we are going to do as LDP. That is one thing I want to focus.
Now we'd like to take questions from other media outlets. Please raise your hand if you have any question. Nikkei newspaper, Miki-san. Thank you. I'm Miki from Nihon Keizai newspaper. And regarding the dissolution, there has been speculation in the stock market. Your proactive fiscal measures were propping up the share prices. However, the yen is depreciated. And now the long-term interest rate is now 2.2% for 27 years for the first time. And how are you going to tackle this? And then rising interest rate, the interest of payment for the people also other effects as well. And by the end of January, you would like to make it happen. And then because of the election, there might be some uncertainties around this area and the National Council. And how are you going to do the reform and the tax aspect? And there was also the mention about the reduction of the consumption tax and about the funding. I think you are modeling different ideas. However, reading as a finance, what will be the specifics and how are you going to implement your ideas for the specifics and when? And regarding the Japanese economy, there was a question about how it will be impacting. First of all, anti-inflation measures already. The supplementary budget is in place and is implemented step by step. To the maximum extent, so is an acceleration effort going on, and that was already asked with each minister, so you don't have to worry about this. And about the fluctuation of currency rates in the market, regarding what the market determines, I will not comment as Prime Minister, but speculative moves on this front in the right manner, we will keep monitoring the situation, and as for the state, necessary measures will be taken place. National Council, on the other hand, for tax and security or social security, on this front, lower or mid-income earners are suffering. We need to alleviate their burden in line with the incomes. There has to be ramping up of take-home pay, and we are also asking collaboration from different parties as well. By the end of January, we'd like to make it happen. And there was a request already made. However, it didn't work well. But whatever the situation is, in a speedy manner, this needs to be advanced. I have no change about such a mindset, so therefore, the timeline may fluctuate a little bit. However, after the election happens, as soon as possible, the national conference will be kicked off to advance our discussions.
Now we take a question from Sejima-san from Fuji TV. Sejima from Fuji TV, thank you. Let me ask about the timing for you to decide the dissolution in and outside of the body. It was surprising. At the end of the year, many people did not expect you dissolve the house. on the year end and the new year, did you change your mind? Or when did you change your mind? And what is the reason for you to decide to dissolve the House this timing? The new policies and new coalition framework have not been directly supported by people in Japan. I became Prime Minister October last year, and this is what I have been thinking. However, we needed to take measures to address rising prices because it was imminent challenge. Supplementary budget for 2025. We have the budget, and for the municipalities, and we are asking quick implementation of the supplementary budget of 2025. The life security, including measures against the rising prices, there are policies implemented. So we are fully prepared for avoiding a political vacuum. So why am I announcing this today? Diplomatic schedule. We had the international conferences last year. President Trump visited Japan. There were a series of diplomatic events, and last week I met with President Lee of South Korea and also Prime Minister Meloni. She also visited Japan, and with the diplomatic protocol, I wanted to really finish those diplomatic schedule on January 17th. That was the Memorial Day of Hanshin Awaji earthquake. I wanted to have a calm environment, especially for this weekend. Because of these items, I decided to make this decision this timing.
Himiri Tajima-san. Himiri Tajima, thank you. About the DPD and your relations with the party in question for stabilization of the administration, you wanted to expand your alliance with the party in question, and that could have been a trigger for the dissolution decision. And the people, the DPDF, and Mr. Tamaki is a leader of the party. And around the dissolution, there was a commitment about the budget compression, and there was a review going on regarding the alliance with the LDP within their faction, and how are you going to formulate your relations with them after the election? At the end of last year, the DPDF with the People's collaboration regarding the rising or the raising the threshold for the tax, income tax. There was an alleviation for the income tax, and as for DPDF, so the policies really matter. So therefore, really, I'm for such a mindset. And the Democratic Party for the Peoples, their idea is part of this. So 2026 budget draft, and by the end of the year, or within the year, the early enactment was agreed upon. On a continuous basis, policy-centered measures are expected from the party.
Now we take a question from Nanao-san from Doango. I am Nanao from Nico Nico. Thank you. During the opening remarks, you mentioned this. So we have a parliamentary system in Japan. So this is different from president system where people directly choose their leader. In the leader's election, the number of seats can determine who the prime minister will be, and that's what we have seen. It means that this election, the result will directly impact the selection of a prime minister. So people's vote will be very close to choosing a prime minister. Whether people choose you as a prime minister, focusing on national interest, whether we can address China. And that will be very important election to really determine the future of Japan. What do you make of that? Yes, we have a system in Japan where we have the parliamentary system, cabinet system. So people do not directly choose the leader, but it is said that it is an election to choose the administration with the majority with LDP and JIP. It will be me, but if that is not the case, it will be other people, whether it's Mr. Noda or Mr. Saito. Even though it is indirect, people choose prime minister. We can say that in a lower house and upper house, LDP does not have majority seats, and the president of the party is a prime minister. 2 years ago, with the coalition of Komeito, the lower house election was held, and then we changed the framework, working with JIP now. And based on this new coalition, we have new policies. That's what we are promoting. And going forward, including diplomacy and also security, there will be bold policies that could divide opinions. And without being afraid of criticism, we want to be bold. Instead of thinking about politics condition, we ask for people's intention. That's the way I chose. I'm putting my post as a prime minister on the line, whether people ask me to be a prime minister. That is kind of the mandate we are asking for from the people.
新潟日報、海瀬さん。海瀬 from 新潟日報。In the middle of the winter, there will be this election. I have a question on this. In February, there will be the lower house election, and for the first time in 36 years, this will be happening. Like you touched upon, during these months in the north part of Japan, there is torrential rain, torrential snow, and then a big snow, and then amid such a situation, it could be a risk for the people in those areas. And in order to make a decision of at this timing, how did you think about such harsh weather conditions? Like I said before, especially the people living in snowy areas, I really appreciate their coming to the voting all the way. Now it's quite snowy, but even in the past, Heisei 24 in December, and then also Heisei 14, there was also such a situation, and then last January, for the upper house, including Yamagata and the Hokkaido, Aomori, other leaders' elections were also happening as well. And the January of this year, Fukui governor's election in March, Ishikawa governor's election is also in the plan. And as for the Japanese government, regarding the implementation of the elections, there should not be any vacuum. So therefore, we'd like to cordially respond to the inquiries, the Central Election Committee, and then together with the other election committees, we'd like to implement with perfect measures. And voting on the day of the voting or official voting, if there are any difficulties, advanced voting, and then also different formats are also available as well. So therefore, we'd like to spread the information about this. So I'd like them to be cautious about the weather conditions.
では、そうです。じゃあロイターの木原さんと。
Now we take a question from Kihara-san from Reuters. I'm Kihara from Reuters. Thank you. Let me ask about the relationship between Japan and China. With China, there is a challenge about export control of rare earths. It is said that relationship between Japan and China is deteriorating, and you are asking for dialogues with China, but we have not seen the visible progress. So the capability of the administration is important for diplomacy. Other countries are seeing the stability. If the ruling parties get the majority what will be an impact on diplomatic policy of Takaichi administration? And you said that this election is the one where we create our future. So when you say tsukuru, is it in hiragana or in kanji character? So when I say tsukuru, it is hiragana character. You asked the question about the relationship with China. We are promoting mutually beneficial relationship based on common strategic interests. We establish constructive and stable Japan-China relationship that has been consistent. Because we are having challenges, communication is important. About the dialogues with China, I have been saying for multiple times, our position is open. At this point, there are communication at the various levels. The result of the election, or I will not make assumption about the potential impact of the election. However, based on the stance I talked about, we continue to communicate with China. We are going to take appropriate action with a firm stance for national interest.
いただきます。
Two more questions, please. Shizuoka newspaper, Takeda-san. Shizuoka newspaper, Takeda. About our nuclear power policy, I have a question. In Shizuoka, Chubu and Hamaoka nuclear power, and then there are inadequacies about the collection of the data for the earthquake. This undermines our foundation of the safety of the nuclear power operation, whether or not Chubu Power Corporation, whether they are responsible enough. And then also regulations are being questioned. And about the energy security, there was a mention in the beginning as Prime Minister for inadequacies. How do you see this? And then nuclear power policy, and how do you see the regulations needs? And then as the administration or for the LDP and as a party, do you have no change of mindset? Is that right? Regarding what you pointed out, this is a premise or a big foundation which is a safety for the nuclear operations. So this could undermine the people's trust. Such inadequacy, so it shouldn't happen. And within NRA, strict measures are now being considered. And for Chubu Power Corporation, the root cause analysis, and then whether or not there are no ramification on the other areas, there is a report requested, and through testing, the situation will be confirmed. There will be such measures taking place. At any rate, about the nuclear power plant and restart of the operations, the NRA, the Nuclear Regulatory Agency, if the standards are met, as they see, while gaining understanding from the local people, restart will be advanced. There is no change about such course of action.
テレビ平本さんどうぞ。
Now we take a question from Nihon TV. My name is Hiramoto from Nihon TV, and this has been answered for several times, but many voters wonder why the House is dissolved now. You have a high approval rating, including measures against raising prices. Many people do value policies, but many voters are saying that this election is not focused on the policy. Many people are worried that Takaichi administration is now focused on election. Can you say you have consistency? Can you explain the policy of Takaichi administration has not changed? Because we want to implement the policies, before we start long diet session, we ask for mandate. Whether there are impact on measures against rising prices, people are asking questions. With the supplementary budget enacted, we have the funding, the gasoline tax, electricity, local grants, and also allowance for child rearing, and also we are supporting loss-making medical institutions, and nursing care facilities, including supplementary budget. We have measures against rising prices. I have given instruction to all the ministers to do the implementation. Even during the campaign, we continue to work, and this implementation will work. And with this general election, what people are worried about is the enactment of next fiscal year's budget within this year in order to minimize the impact, including myself, for the candidates. We know this is going to be a tight schedule, but 23rd will be dissolved, 27th announcement, and February 8th there will be voting. So that is a schedule that we have determined. And the budget for 2026, initial budget, fiscal 2026, it has been presented already. So if the party members are supporting responsible and productive public finances for enactment of the budget for 2026, we would like to do that as soon as possible. If we have to have provisional budget, including free tuition for schools, we make sure we address them. This is what I have already said. My first priority is policy implementation. I have been saying that I am focused on policy implementation, but what I have been thinking is this. For upper house and the lower house, we do not have the majority of seats. With this number of seats, we have to really stretch. I don't say it is unprecedented, but we are taking difficult approach for the both upper house and the lower house with each party and with the different groups. I have been making requests, and with a very tight approach, I became a prime minister. But with the this year's long diet session, there has to be deliberation for budget for 2026. And we have a new vision, and the government is going to submit bills, and they are very significant that could have divided opinions. That's why before the start of that session, we want to ask for the mandate from the people. If we get the mandate, and we are going to push forward. If we do not have a mandate, and I will take my responsibility. That is how determined I am. With the one step, we are implementing policies. There are some difficult policies, but still I want to implement policies. That's why we are asking for mandates. That will conclude the press conference. If you are raising hands, you can send questions by documents. One question can be asked to the Secretariat team, and those questions will be answered. Thank you for your support.